All right, welcome to the track guys here. Oh, my screen's not showing it. There we go. So practice sessions, the track guys are all going to be under the Thursday session. So click on there and do test drive. Weather for the race, it is April 10th. The session starts at 4 a.m., but there's times 2 and it's 3 times 6. So it's going to be kind of afternoonish. So the temperature is just going to keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter. As you can tell here, uh, qualifying roughly about 26 degrees Celsius, but then it's just going to keep climbing. The race starts here 11 a.m. And it's going to keep going till about here 5 p.m. So you can see here temperature is just going to get hotter during the race, and we're not going to really have any relief. Southern California, I guess it's hot at this time of year. Precipitation stuff, there's none. It's going to be pretty, well, it is 100% dry. There's a bit of cloud cover, but really not much. So yeah, expect a hot race. And then again, once you come into your session here, view session, you click on this little arrow, test drive, and then you get to choose whatever car you want to run. So here's the lap guide for the BMW M2. Doing a bit of practice here. I started kind of picking up the pace and kind of figuring out where I liked it. I ended up with a 30.0. You can probably go a little bit quicker. Actually, you can go a lot quicker here. I did a 129.4 as far as sector times. I don't know why this must have been in different conditions, so I'm not sure what's going on here. But in these conditions for the Thursdays, I did a 30.040. Let's pop this back off here. So I'm going to play the lap at full speed, and then we'll slow down and talk about it, and then I'll quickly go over to the 131.042. That is with some lift and coast, so pretending there was traffic. It was about a second slower, so it's not that much slower, but it gives you a good example of kind of what maybe you guys could expect in traffic. One thing I told the other track guys is I really highly recommend you watch the GRD6 track guide and the GT4 track guide just to see where their brake markers are, so you can kind of anticipate where they might make moves on you or where you might not want to make a move. GRD6 are very quick through some of the corners. So as a BMW, you're really not losing any time if you stay behind a car through the tighter sectors, and then you can pass them down on the straightaway, which is a little bit easier because we got a lot more speed than the GRD6s. As far as GT4s, well, they're going to be kind of better overall pretty much everywhere. Uh, so you might want to be aware of that and kind of know when to lift and coast to let them by. But we're going to play this first lap here. We're going to play it full speed, and then I'll slow it down and talk about it. Oh, and don't forget to go in your garage and do the -5% when you're doing test drive. So there's a 130.0. Let's slow it down and talk about it a bit. So this is a quality lap. I'll talk about overtakes and stuff on the next one. But we're pushing closer to the 500 board. Here's the 500 board. You can see I'm getting off the throttle, onto the brakes. I'm trying to stay out of the ABS. You can definitely put one tire over the red line here, and one your right tire's over the red line, and your left tires stay to the left. I don't really like to go past the middle point of my car because there is a slowdown lap here. So just be aware of that. Staying off the ABS, I'm going down to third gear and I'm turning in before the 100 board. Trying to stay on the flat surface of this curb. There is a camber here. I'd like to try to stay just on the limit of where it starts to camber. Here I think I jumped up a little bit. Yeah, so it slows the car and kind of, you can see I'm counter steering quite a bit. So it upsets the car a little bit, so try to stay on the flatter part of it. But on the exit, you want to go all the way out to the wall. And you're kind of trying to open up this corner, so you're staying to the right as much as possible, and then you're going to kind of come left around the corner of this one to try to open up the fountain here. Down to second gear. At the fountain, you can pretty much get right up to this gray curb, so past the candy cane curb and all the way to the gray curb, and you kind of use that to rotate yourself a little bit. On exit, you want to get as close to this wall as possible, to carry as much speed as possible, and then come back over to the left. Coming up to the corner here, you can see there's white lines across the track. I'm typically using this one here, pretty much in all classes. If you watch the track guides, you can see that all cars are kind of using this kind of same marker. You can see here off throttle onto the brake just after it. Again, staying out of the ABS. This is another one of those cambered curves. Try to stay on the flat portion of it and maybe just a little bit to the upper part to help rotate a little bit, but you don't want to jump this one too much. You can see here, I don't really jump this one at all, unlike that other one. All the way out to the wall, painted white wall versus different color to here. I'm kind of using this as a brake marker. So braking off throttle. I like turning in early for this track or for this corner because there's a lifted portion. So the track kind of goes up and then you get to the apex and it drops back down over to the left here and it drops off. So if you don't turn in early enough, you usually end up in this black barrier because you haven't turned in early enough, and when you get back on power, it just understeers right into the wall. There is a slowdown if you cut it too much. So there's a delicate balance where I like having my two left tires kind of hit in this curb, and my two right tires way over to the right here. You can see here I kind of missed this one. Even I still didn't quite turn in early enough, or I didn't maybe slow down quite enough for this one because I kind of miss it. You can see if you watch the GR86 and the GT4 track guides, you'll see my tires are way over to the right here and my lefts are on the curb. And you can see how close I'm getting to this wall here. Typically, I like being a little bit further along to this side before I get close to the wall. But because I kind of missed that one, I'm going to end up closer to the wall here, which is a little bit dangerous. Now I'm getting close to the wall, cutting across this track. Brake markers, so a little bit after the kind of the 300 mark. And what you want to do is you don't get too close to the wall or too early. You can see where these blue banners here, it stops on, there's 1, 2, 3, and then there's a black banner. You can see the wall opens up here. So the track is getting tighter, 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 and then at this third banner, it opens up. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to break in line with this kind of wall opening so that I can open up the track a little bit more. So there's the 300 board. I'm starting to get on the brakes, and I'm right here. You can see there's the NOS, and then there's the K1 speed. The track opens up right where the K1 speed starts. So I'm trying to use that to open up the corner a little bit. I'll go down to third gear here, try to turn in early so that I can get kind of cut over this curb sector. This sector is really hard with the BMW. You can see I'm just fighting the steering wheel the entire time. I don't like going too far to the right over this red line because I find it just wastes time. So I'm trying to keep momentum up, but also not force my steering too much. And then I'll cut back across over to the left. What I like doing is aiming between the 300 and the 200. You're going to be braking closer to the 300 board, I think just after the 300 board. that opens up the corner quite nicely. So there's a 300 board. So you're between the 3 and the 2, probably about 270, 260-ish. And then we're going to open up the corner here. While we're braking to the left, we're going to start turning right, get the slip angle on the tires, and then cut this corner quite aggressively. So again, staying out of the ABS, getting all the way out to the wall. You can see how close I am to the wall here. Just opening up the corner. Getting onto the throttle before I kind of get to the apex here. You'll see I'm trail braking still, and then boom, okay, let's get to the power, because this is a big long straightaway, and you want to get as much speed as possible. All the way out to the wall. You're kind of cutting this a little bit naturally, because you don't want to leave any time on the track, so you're going to cut it naturally. Braking zones, 500, 400, 300. We're going to be somewhere between the 5 and the 4 here. There's a 5. So pretty close to the 4, probably about 425, 430. You can see there's an open end of the track. Again, this is one of those things where you're going to brake towards that. You can see I'm not all the way to the left of the track. I'm actually aiming towards this sector here. So I'm coming close to this sector, opening up the track as much as I can. And I'm going to start turning in closer to the 100 board, down to third gear, trail braking quite a lot for a long time. I want my right tires kind of over this jagged curb. It helps rotate the car a little bit as well. And then I don't want to push out too wide. I want to leave a little bit of space to the left here so that I can come back over to the right as fast as possible and then open up the corner. Again, I want 2 left tires over this jagged kind of curb sector so it helps me rotate the car. I'm staying in third gear for the sector here, sliding the car a little bit. Big warning for this corner. Don't be the guy who's going to cut and go for a dive down the inside. It always ends up bad. Anybody who's trying to do a dive down the inside, what ends up happening is all of a sudden now the corner's too tight if you try to go down the inside, and you end up in the wall on the outside, and then you're going to have to reverse, and it ends up being a whole parking lot. So I really, really highly suggest be patient around this corner, and unless the driver in front of you makes a big mistake through the sector that you just kind of came through. But if you guys are similar pace, try not to make an overtake through this corner. I would rather, it's much smarter to kind of open up the entry. So come further over to the left and try to cut down the inside and try to make an overtake down the straightaway. Try to get a better exit out of the corner because we've all seen it multiple times. Somebody tries to do a stupid overtake down the inside and ends up being a parking lot and nobody can get through. So yeah, don't be that guy, please. All the way out to the wall here, and then I'm down to second gear, and then I want to cut close to the wall as possible and just really get on power as much as possible to turn the car. One thing to note is for this race only, we're going to have the comms open. And what I've said in the previous track guides for the GRE6 and the BMW or the GT4 is what I really like for everybody to do is if you are intending to go into the pits, call it out beforehand. So as you're coming through the last sector here, before you get to the hairpin, call out car 205, pitting in this lap. And at the same time, when you're coming out of the exit of this corner, try to stay to the right as much as possible. Don't try to open up the corner if there's cars nearby, because they might try to come to the inside and make an overtake. So what I want you to do is stay to the right here. That way you're not cutting across. There's what, 3 lanes? 3 lanes. You're not cutting across in front of somebody or into the side of somebody to get into the pit lane. Because here's the pit lane entry, and I've seen it way too many times where a car just like, oh, I got a pit, and they go right, and then there's a car on their inside, and they just crash and make a huge mess of it. So number one, call it out. If there's anybody near you, obviously if there's nobody nearby, you don't need to call it out. There's no risk of anything. But if there's cars nearby you, call out car 205, pit in this time by, and protect your exit. So when you come out of the hairpin, stay to the right as much as possible. Don't open up the corner as much as possible to the left. That way that nobody can get to your inside, and then you can come into the pits nice and safely. So that was the 130.0. Now we're going to talk about the 131.0. You'll see there's a lot of lift and coast, and we'll talk about traffic a little bit more here. So I'm going to play it full speed, and then we'll talk about it. Just note the amount of lift and coast. So that was the 131.0. That was with some lift and coast. So we're going to slow it down, talk about traffic management a bit. So corner number one, with some lift and coast, we're kind of at the end of this curb is a good spot. You can let some cars go to the inside here. If there's a GR86 in front of you that's nearby, if you don't have overlap with them by kind of this point, uh, almost don't bother. They are quite quick through the corners here. You can just get in behind them and they'll pull away from you a little bit through the corner sector. My fastest lap was only 1.8 seconds faster in a BMW than it was for the GR86. So they are quite quick, um, especially in this first sector with all the corners. So I don't really recommend trying to make an overtake on a GR86 into this braking zone. If you're not already overtaking them before you get to the braking zone, I I wouldn't even bother. I would just lift, save some fuel, get in behind them, let them go because they are probably quicker. GT4s, they're probably going to want to get by you because BMW is really the slowest car through all the corners. Um, but they have to have overlap into the braking zone. So we are kind of braking around the same point as them, closer to the 500 board. In this lift and coast lap here, we're going to lift a little bit early, and then we'll slowly kind of gradually get on the brakes here. Again, same line. We're really not changing the line, but you can see I was just much more casual on the brakes. So if there was a GT4 on my inside here, obviously you can't turn in fully. Be aware of traffic coming out of the pit lane. They have to stay to the right of this yellow line. So they're going to have to cut across this way. So if obviously there's a car here, you're going to have to make room on the exit of this corner. So just keep that in mind. You're going to have to bleed a little bit more speed so that they don't end up on the wall with you. This sector here, I really don't expect anybody to be making any passes unless somebody makes a big mistake. Again, if there's a GR86 in front of you, it's so easy to just stay behind. In fact, he's probably going to pull away from you a little bit. GT4s, again, I don't think they're going to have an opportunity to get by you unless you've made a mistake. They'll probably have to stay behind you as well. A little bit of lift in here. This is pretty much the same as before. This is a very short straightaway. I don't suggest trying to make any pass on a GR86. Again, they've probably pulled away from you at this point, so you probably won't have any overlap anyway. GT4s, it's questionable. They might have a little bit of overlap coming to this braking zone, but it's so small that I doubt it. Most likely they'll just kind of stay behind you as well. A little bit of lift in here, not too much. A little lighter on the brakes. Again, same corner. This sector again, if there's a GR86, I don't even think you've caught them at this point. They're still ahead of you. There's no real point in trying to pass them. GT4s, they might try to make an overtake. So that's one thing to note here. I would lift a little bit earlier if they do kind of point their nose to the inside. just lift much earlier, and it helps you with this corner as well. So it'll make your car a little bit more stable for the next corner, and you can turn in behind them once they get by you. That would be my best suggestion. Is just let the car go, especially if it's only one, or if it's two, you can kind of let them go together. More than two, obviously, you're going to end up side by side, depending on what the car is doing. So you're gonna have to watch out. But a nice lift and coast here will probably save everybody. Um, and that will set you up better to get a better exit out of this corner too. So now that you're behind that GRD6, this is really your best opportunity to get by a GRD6. Um, this is really your first opportunity you'll be able to get by a GRD6, other than down the main straight. GT4s obviously are going to want to get by you. So braking zone, the GRD6s are starting to break around the 200 board. So, and I think we're closer to the 300 board. So obviously you need to have some overlap with the GRD6 before your braking zone. Um, and this is a bit of a tight corner. So if you do have car overlap with them, just be aware that they're going to stick on your outside. Unless they lift off and let you through, you're not going to be able to overtake them before the apex if you have some overlap. They're really going to be able to hang it out. So you're going to have to leave room for them on the exit of the corner. So with some lift and coast here, you can see I lifted quite a bit. And now I'm going to slowly get on the brakes, open up the corner. But like I said, if you have some overlap with the GRD6 into the braking zone, they're going to be hanging it on the outside of you because they have much more grip than us. And also the car really wants to slide on the exit. So you're going to have to pay special attention to how much room you give on the exit because this car is very slippery. Coming to this sector, if you were behind a GRD6, it's going to be sketchy to be able to get by one in this sector because we are lacking traction through this sector, and the straightaway is not very long. I really would recommend lifting and coasting, staying behind the GRD6, and then getting down the back straight because the back straight is quite long. Well, considering all the rest of the straightaways. GT4s, they might have better traction coming out of this corner, so they might be able to get alongside you before the braking zone. Actually, I'm pretty sure they will be able to, depending on how they exited that corner. So you'll have to keep an eye out if there's a GT4 near you at the exit of the corner. They might want to do an overtake before the straightaway here. Again, lift and coast. Nothing crazy. Just help stabilize the car a little bit. Opening up the corner. If you do have side-by-side with a GT4, this is a very tight one. Both cars are going to have to give each other lots of space on the exit because that wall comes up very fast. We've seen it in IndyCar. We've seen it in other cars. There's quite a few incidents into this corner. So both cars are going to have to pay special attention that they leave room on exit for each car. Straightaway, obviously, great opportunity to get by GRD6s. Like that last one I suggested, I think you guys have three zones. There's this zone here. There's that zone after that right-hander after the first sector, and then the main straightaway. Those are kind of the only three spots where I suggest passing a GRD6. Everywhere else, I would just stay behind them. They're quite fast through the corners and the tight sectors. So these are my three spots that I would suggest getting by a GRD6. GT4s obviously are going to get by you here. This is one of those straights where it's not really straight. People like to cut it. So if you are cutting it and there's GT4s coming, just make sure you leave enough room on the inside. And then if they're coming to your left, when you're starting to brake, obviously you're going to be braking in a straight line, but it's kind of a diagonal straight line to open up the corner. So just be aware that where people are and what they might try to anticipate what they might do and just kind of hold your line and then maybe lift early coming to the braking zone if you need to. So GRD6s are braking near the 300 board. We are between the 400 and the 500, same with the GT4s. So yeah, I mean, if you don't have any overlap with the GRD6, don't bother. They're going to be quicker through the sector, and then you can get them down the main straight. GT4s, just I would lift, try not to give them reason to kind of slide into you. we are quite slow through this sector compared to the other cars. So even if we give up a little bit of time on entry, if we tuck back in behind them, it's not going to cost us much time. This sector is, again, I've warned you guys, this is a really bad sector to try to make an overtake. And I've already warned about the pit entry, so yeah, this is a good spot to make overtakes on GR6s. So I think that's it for the track guide for the BMW M2.